The future of Warzone has been formally revealed at Call of Duty Next, and we're seeing some pretty substantial changes, and yes, before this video even gets underway, the return of Verdansk in March 2025, allegedly spring 2025, but let's be honest, they're not going to miss that anniversary day. Warzone was arguably the most controversial of the entire reveal event. Multiplayer looked really solid, zombies looks phenomenal, but Warzone has some good, some bad, and some I'm not entirely sure about. There are some really substantial changes, including a brand new map called Area 99, lots of quality of life changes, and even the reintroduction of overkill. And just saying that out loud sounds strange. We're talking some good, some bad, and some confusing. I mean, we're talking about a Warzone reveal event where in one sentence they're saying that they're reducing the number of challenges appearing on screen and guitar riffs because it's distracting, and then in the second sentence they're saying that a random AI on the map is going to talk to you about the narrative story of this map you're playing on. It doesn't make sense. So today I'm going to give you a full breakdown of everything that's happening with the Warzone reveal and give you my thoughts and feelings on everything that's been revealed so far. It was a very mixed bag, and overall I'd say if we're just talking about content, we're talking straight 10s across the board, maybe even a 9. If we're talking about everything else, we're talking maybe a 5 or 6, and things get really confusing. Now, I'd like to caveat this entire video by saying that the biggest fundamental flaw of this entire event is that even though Call of Duty Next is giving us brand new content, new weapons, 2 new maps for Warzone, big map ranked, and a number of other things, it still doesn't fix the fact that the last year of Warzone has been fundamentally flawed because of core gameplay. I sat there at Call of Duty Next in 2023 listening to the developers saying that they were going to give us better balancing. And then in the same year, witnessed the HRM9 and Superi take 4 or 5 different nerfs in order to balance correctly, whilst accidentally introducing broken metas like dual-wield pistols, pistols with no fire rate, the Doom shotgun reactivating 4 to 5 times. It was a lot of pizzazz and very little substance, and I think it's worth remembering this again. I think for all of the stuff you're going to hear about how good the new content for Warzone is, at a fundamental level, balancing won't improve, and there's reasons why, and I will touch on that. And the anti-cheat hasn't even been discussed at all. We're not seeing a new and improved system, we're still moving forward with the current Ricochet system. So let's start off with the big news. Warzone is getting an integration with Black Ops 6 coming in Season 1, which means it won't be straight away at the release of the game, and this is kind of usual for what we're used to so far. It's going to bring the Omni movement system over, a new perk system, the removal of backpacks, and some other core gameplay functionality changes, alongside a brand new Resurgence map called Area 99. And in spring of 2025, Verdansk will be making its grand return to Warzone as well. I'm going to start off with some of the good changes and things that bounced out to me. The movement system and Omni movement looks really, really good. I worry though that it's going to be a little bit Marmitey. I feel like some people are going to love it and some people are really going to dislike it, but overarchingly it felt really fluid and it felt like it just fit into the Warzone ecosystem. The floor loot system has been greatly improved going into this new iteration of Warzone, with rarities being visually identifiable whilst they're on the floor and better spread out of loot, which is really nice to see. We're also seeing less splashes of challenges and guitar riffs appearing, which is really good to see. And we're seeing the backpack system finally being removed from Warzone, getting rid of killstreak spam, smoke spam, and overarching spam in the game entirely. You will also now be able to have the ability to pull out a knife in Warzone as a third weapon, which will give you infinite tac sprint in the game whilst holding the knife, which I think is a really nice balancing change and a really good trade-off. The gunplay and the movement system are replicas of the Black Ops system, and both of them so far look really solid, although I do have some underlying concerns that we will talk about in terms of the movement being cheesy and the gunplay potentially being unbalanced, but we'll get to that eventually. There is a new gas system, at least on the brand new map of Area 99, which is a more visible gas system than what we've seen before, so you can kind of see through it a little bit better, which in my opinion is a better system to have. There is a customizable UI which is coming over from Black Ops 6, which is great to see. Mastery camos have been added to Warzone, allowing you to unlock various camouflages for playing in Warzone. And there's also been a reduction to the duration of live ping to try and make the game a little bit more balanced in terms of the smoke grenade meta and counteracting it. So there generally are some really positive changes. There's even random quality of life changes like being able to pick up a self-revive if you happen to find one whilst you're already down. I'm a big fan of the systems that we're seeing in Black Ops 6, and I feel like they're going to work really well in Warzone, and I think it's heading in the right direction. I do have some concerns that casual players may struggle to adapt to these systems, and I do wonder if those casual players will not enjoy the Omni movement system, but I guess that's a wider question for the entire franchise. Now let's address the questionable / the bad. To start with, the wildcard system is coming into Warzone, allowing you to have different wildcards alongside a new merged perk system. Some perks have now been merged into one. For example, Combat Scout has been merged with Tracker into one underlying Tracker perk. And the idea was to take perks that were less often choosed and combine them together to make them a more lucrative package. And that makes sense. I actually really like that change, and I think it just generally improves the overall flow of the game. However, the new wildcard system, in my view, makes absolutely zero sense. The first two wildcards that we've been shown in Warzone is the reintroduction of Overkill, meaning that you will have to have Overkill equipped in order to use two weapons in the game as a wildcard, or the option of a second wildcard, which means that you don't get a second gun, but you do have the ability to equip 8 attachments on a single weapon. So I really think this is just a complete misfire. Like, nobody wanted to see Overkill reintroduced into the game. And in fact, exactly a year ago at the previous ConNext, they were celebrating how they'd gotten rid of Overkill. So bringing this back in just seems like change for the sake of change. And I don't think this new wildcard system is going to go well. Let's talk about the maps. Now, whilst it's great that we do have a new Resurgence map with the integration, and we are getting a new map in 2025 if you consider Verdansk to be new, we are talking about playing Urzikstan until March 2025 with no new big map content until that date, which is over a year and a half. And we're also talking about Area 99, which on initial impression does not look good. This is me being honest, I haven't played it yet, maybe my opinion will change, but this map looks like it's seriously lacking in cover, it's looking like it's seriously lacking in micro cover, and it just feels like all of the points of interest are entirely disjointed. It feels like they've taken random squares of POIs and stapled them together in a map that doesn't look like it flows well and doesn't look like it plays well. And watching the creators play it today, a lot of them just look like they weren't having a good time. And you could just see that this is the first map that Treyarch have ever produced, and it feels like it's the first map that they've ever produced. There's obvious omissions from this map, like micro cover in between objectives and points of interest, that just don't seem to be in this map. And it honestly, like, genuinely, this looks like somebody tried to staple an Apex and a Warzone map together, and it just doesn't look good. These are just my initial impressions. I haven't played the map myself, but it just didn't look like a well thought out Warzone map. When I saw the trailer for something like Fortune's Keep, I thought, wow, this really oozes of, like, you know, development progress for Warzone. This is a map that's been thought about and thought through, and I just did not get that looking at this map at all. There's also really weird design decisions. Like, this is supposed to be a precursor to Nuketown, which is really cool. I like the idea that there's a bit of a lore to the map. But they've decided to include like a random announcer who will talk to you whilst you're playing the game. And in the same sentence earlier, they said that they wanted less guitar riffs to stop distracting you. So what are we doing here? Do you know what I mean? Are we going for less spam or more spam? Are we making audio better or worse? It just feels like there's really conflicting design decisions. I feel as though this is a map that kind of feels like it has been developed by a team who haven't been paying attention to Warzone. Because Treyarch haven't created a Warzone map before, and all of the general quality of life improvements like micro cover and thinking about the flow of the map just don't seem to be present in this smaller map. As a general side note of something that's arguably a bit more of a niche point, this map is entirely devoid of color. Like, it is orange, yellow, and beige. And I really wish that they would stop doing that in Warzone maps. Like, I really wish we had a bit more of a vibe or a feel for some of these. Next, let's talk balance, because good God, is this going to be a problem. Now, I've already mentioned that anti-cheat and general weapon balancing have not been things that they have talked about at COD/NEXT, so you can expect them to be, well, what they were this year. And what they were this year was utterly horrid. Now, there's a very weird thing going on with Black Ops 6 weapons, where Black Ops 6 weapon attachments have no downsides. The only ones with downsides are magazines. Now, the big issue with that is that there is an example where increasing the fire rate of your gun does not make it less accurate or does not increase recoil, which means that you're going to be halving the TTK of your weapon with no downsides, which in itself is a balancing nightmare for all of Warzone. That one attachment and change by itself is a colossal problem for the balance of Warzone. But If you think about this in the wider sense, Modern Warfare 2 weapons and Modern Warfare 3 weapons are carrying over to the new version of Warzone, but all of their attachments come with downsides. So there's a double-edged sword here, because either the Black Ops 6 attachments only work on Black Ops 6 weapons, meaning they're infinitely better than all of the Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 weapons, and we end up with forced obsolescence again, which means that there was no point bringing those weapons forward in the first place. Or they do work on those weapons, and nobody is going to be able to balance them correctly because nobody is going to think about, hey guys, does increasing the fire rate 40% on a Modern Warfare 3 weapon mean it's going to kill somebody in 2 bullets? I didn't think about that, Ben. Maybe somebody should test it. Oh god, there's 700 guns to test. That is a huge problem. That is a problem that is going to plague this Warzone, regardless of how they split the cake. My final 2 points are a bit moot, but I feel like they're worth mentioning anyway because I'm very passionate about the overall flow of Warzone over the last 4 years. We have a brand new movement system coming to Warzone, but nowhere during the COD Next staple did any conversation about servers occur for Warzone. We are still on the same 20 Hz servers for Warzone, which have produced hit reg problems, weapon problems, general dying behind cover problems, and now you're adding a fast, fluid movement system into the game, which is going to be a nightmare for a slow server system. 20-tick servers combined with rapid movement that changes your hitboxes very frequently is going to create a very inconsistent gunplay loop that I am not excited about at all. Naturally, this isn't a problem for multiplayer because multiplayer has 60 Hz servers. So there's no reason for them to worry about how the movement system is going to work in multiplayer because it's just going to work, and it's going to work well. That isn't the case in Warzone. And I'm going to touch on anti-cheat. I know this feels like point scoring, and hell, if you think that's the case, then fine. But the reality is, all of this content and all of these balancing changes and everything that they're changing with the game does not matter if I'm getting spat on by spin botters within the first 3 weeks. And considering they're adding Warzone Ranked to Big Map, which by the way, I should add to the pros list because that's really cool and I'm glad it's finally happening, that is a problem. Ranked is going to be infested with cheaters, the game is going to be infested with cheaters, the game is available on Xbox Game Pass, which you can get cheap trials for, which arguably means there's an even faster avenue for cheaters to get into the premium product. We are talking about a situation where, cool, Black Ops 6 looks great, but in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be talking about the same problems that we've been talking about for the past year. The anti-cheat not working effectively, balancing not working accordingly, and we end up exactly where we left off. Overarchingly, if you just look at Warzone's new integration in terms of just content, you're probably looking at like an 8 or a 9. You know, we're talking about a new Resurgence map, which might end up being better than I think, combined with a brand new return to Verdansk. But if you look at it in the wider context of how Warzone's been operating over the past year, the more things change, the more they stay the same. In exactly 2 months' time from the release of that new integration, we're still going to be talking about bugs, we're still going to be talking about anti-cheat, and we're still going to be talking about balancing. Granted, some of these are really large things that are difficult to change and difficult to fix. But it's been 3 or 4 years now. You know, we're talking about problems that are becoming inherent to the Warzone formula, and if there's no real improvement to central gameplay systems, why is anybody going to care about the new Omni movement systems? I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, but I really feel as though I'm going to be splitting a bit more time into zombies because that looked really, really solid. And I hope that Warzone can turn these things around and actually give us those general improvements that are going to make the game a much more enjoyable experience for a longer duration of time. But we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on the comment section below, and I'll catch you again in the next one.